next concept we're going to be exploring, we've also kind of touched on it before, but it's something called typecasting. Now, what this basically is changing the data type of one, it could be a variable or it could be anything else, of one piece of data to another. So let's say that we had, let's just take our concatenation example. Say we had a number of apples, and that was 8 right now. If we wanted to print, I have, and then I'm leaving a space here because string concatenation in Python doesn't automatically leave a space, but I have num apples, which should hypothetically just show up as 8, and then I'm going to finish that with apples, and space here. But now, if we run this, we are going to get a type error, because you cannot concatenate string. You can only concatenate string, not integer, to string. So what we would do is we'd go over here to num apples, and then do str parentheses around num apples. What this does is it converts this data type of integer to a string. But this function works for literally everything too. I'll show you guys in a second, but let me write this up here. Converts other data types to string. If I wanted to do, I have 8.5 apples. Oh, and just over here, as you can see, it does run when it's just 8. But if we wanted to do, I have 8.5 apples, because maybe we split one with a friend, we can see over here that that prints out well too. And if you wanted to make it a little bit of a wild card and do I have true apples, so it's a Boolean, that also works, but I don't think it really makes sense in that sentence, but if you wanted to, you can, so it's nice to have the option. And that is how you cast a non-string data type to a string. So you change the value. And it literally does not matter what the value of this is. As long as it's a valid data type, so if it's an integer, it doesn't have all those letters, because otherwise it would just be unrecognized. But as long as it is a valid variable of a valid data type, you can convert it to a string, concatenate it. Alright, so now we're going to be moving on to int. Now, I'm sure some of you may have already guessed, but what this does is it converts other data types to integer. So let's say again that I had a string for num apples. Maybe I got user input, which we're actually going to be talking about in a second here, but this is going to be very helpful for user input and for your projects tonight. We can set num apples equal to string, so we have our double quotes here, but we can set that equal to string 4. Now, we can print I have, and then num apples, just like we did up there. And hey, it runs without a problem. That's helpful, right? But wait, what if I ate one of these apples and now I want to subtract 1 from my num apples? Well, if I tried to do num apples equals num apples minus 1, so this is basically just setting num apples to itself minus 1. Just as a note, you can only do this if you have the variable defined up here. But even if we run it now, we are going to get a type error because we can't use the negative sign operator for string and int. So what can we do instead? Well, over here for this version of numapples, we can actually set that equal to int numapples minus 1. So now it should just say I have 4 apples. Done and dusted. And if we wanted to print out another statement like this again, all we'd have to do is use string numapples instead of just numapples, and we'd be fine. If we didn't have that, we'd get another error, but we've learned from our mistakes, and we are ready to grow. And yes, that is a basic overview of typecasting in Python. If you're wondering, yes, the float casting functions and the bool, I believe, casting functions do exist in Python, but they're rarely, if ever, used. And these guys over here are like kind of the big dogs. So we're gonna spend more time focusing on them than float and bool.